we got fouled again, and I was lining up for the next free, and I got pushed, and Diarmuid McCabe pulls the ball off me and sticks it over the bar. I never felt treated like such a piece of shit in all my life. Like, I was going through a routine I just made up, you know.
Mickey Hart here. You're listening to the GAA Hour football show.
The GAA Hour with Colm Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
I'm not finished yet. It took me a long time to get here.
I want to start off the show with a bit of appreciation for Killian O'Connor. Lads, Johnny and Conan are here in studio with me because his stats are off the charts, and he is going to, I'm going to have to repeat this, he's going to become the all-time top scorer in senior championship history. Senior championship history, Killian O'Connor, he's 27, which is beyond belief, right? Now, he's been playing at the very top level with Mayo since he came onto the scene, so he's been in loads of matches. He's only played 51 championship games. He's going to overtake Gooch. Now, there's a bit of argument about whether he's 4 points behind or 5 points behind. There's a good chance he'll beat it this weekend anyways. He's going to beat it over the Super 8's. So, he's going to be the all-time top scorer in senior championship history. It took Gooch 84 games to get to his total. Gooch scored 23 goals and 283 points. Incredibly, O'Connor has 23 points and 278 or 79, depending on which source you believe. Mayo, the Mayo blog. Anyways, I think one of the Mayo newspapers has him down one less than another crowd or whatever.
Mayo News, I think.
Mayo News, that's it. And so that's it. Unbelievable, Johnny.
Yeah, unbelievable. And for someone so young, I mean, you know, he's just an unbelievable striker of the ball. Now you'll have the cynical people out there arguing, well, there were frees and this, that, and the other, but it still takes a huge. We've seen him
Gooch
so often.
was a free taker.
He was. Maybe not as prominent as Killian O'Connor. You know, you'd probably. Sheehan there as well, kicking frees, where the vast majority Killian O'Connor would take,
across
the field. Yeah. So, but phenomenal. Like the records are there. There's no argument with it. And look at, as I say, we say if it's 4 or 5, by the time his playing career is finished, you'd imagine that nobody will ever break the record because he's 27. He could have 5 or 6 years left if he wanted, So it's phenomenal, and credit to him, because it takes. We look at them and see, God, he's brilliant. But the hours and hours of practice he's done on his own, it's just phenomenal. And in fairness to him, like you watch his technique, and obviously he kicks 50s and that or 45s and that off the ground, but his kicking technique is exactly the same every time.
Even from play, it's similar to the frees.
It is, yeah. It's just his routine. So he's obviously meticulous in his preparation, and he deserves great credit. He really does. And
I do take your point about the frees right across the field, and some of them can be handy ones because if they're a little bit right of centre, he'll take them. But it's definitely not easy to be taking him on your wrong side as well, which he does take. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's even something you would take away from him. He's still sticking them over, which isn't easy. Another criticism of him is that he's in a weak Connacht championship. He got 4-4 against London or someone like that. But which province isn't feckin' weak outside of potentially Ulster with defensive systems? Gooch was having easy matches against Waterford, Tipperary, hammering Clare. The Bernard Brogans and this world are running up feckin' 5-20 against the Offaly's and Laois. That's not an argument against him, a weak Connacht championship, because arguably the Connacht championship now is one of the strongest.
There's no scorer in any sport who's doing it for a decade and reaching the very top of a sport, doing it by getting gimmies for their whole career. He's going to reach the very top this summer, probably this weekend. That's not from playing Sligo, it's from doing it for 50 odd games, and it's funny, a couple of seasons there where he actually was the record top scorer from play as well. So as much as he's effective from free kicks, he's always sort of racking them up from play too. And I always say that you never appreciate a free taker fully until you're actually taking a free yourself.
True.
And then you realise, Jesus, if I put this over, nobody cares because they're expecting you to put it over, and if I miss, everybody thinks you're an asshole. There's it's just expecting you to score, and Johnny, you know better.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's grand, before training and having the crack and kicking frees but the pressure's on, and there is pressure, and you have to be very strong-minded. I know when I took frees, especially early on, the thing was going through my head is don't miss this, and that's the last thing you should be thinking, and getting that belief in yourself that if you miss one which inevitably, no matter what kicker you are in any sport, you are going to have a day where you're going to miss one you shouldn't. And having the belief in yourself and the confidence in yourself that I'm going to go again here, and I have that belief in myself. So, he's been phenomenal in his stats. It's just they're just off the radar really, because, and as I say, if he spends, Mayo, whether people like to think it or not, and I say, they're gone now, and Mayo are always going to be around. They're a big traditional county. He's going to be playing at the top level. All right, he's his fair share of injuries up and down, but he's going to be playing for the next 3 or 4 years, you would imagine. So where are them stats going to finish?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Accuracy was not my forte, so I was never a free taker, except for when I went to New York one summer. I was playing with Tyrone, and I had a great game in my first game, but it was on the freeze. And I kicked one. Jesus, it was almost Desi Dolan-esque. Like, it was a terrible wide. And it was back in the time of the weekend sanctions.
Poor Desi.
But I was nervous just taking this free, because I wasn't used to them. And I went wide on the right. And it was the time of the weekend sanctions. So Diarmuid McCabe from Cavan was out on a weekend sanction. I was out for the whole summer. And we got fouled again, and I was lining up for the next free, and I got pushed, and Diarmuid McCabe pulls the ball off me and sticks it over the bar. I never felt treated like such a piece of shit in all my life. Like, I was going through a routine I just made up, Now, in a way, I was almost relieved he'd whipped it off me, and he just whipped it over off his left without even doing a routine or anything. I was like,
don't send a boy on a man's job.
That's what I felt like, but I'd never forgotten it. I've never forgotten it.
Like, no sympathy for a miss and no congratulations for a score.
Yeah,
you just expected to put it over.
Pushed me and took the ball off me. Like, you're my teammate. You're not the opposition here. Anyways, Eamon Fitzmaurice has been clearing up some of the comments he made about head injuries, and he was on the Irish Examiner podcast, and he said, but I think with a head injury rule, where it came from originally, how do you stop the clock? You fake an injury, any injury. You could have a sore big toe and the game had to be stopped for it. That was kind of it back when I was playing. You'd just go down injured, and the player would be called back at some stage and you get treatment. And we all did that, Johnny. Go down. If they get a goal at a point, go down, slow it down. That's going on for donkey's years. But he says the next progression then was that only a head injury can stop the game. So teams exploit that now. Of course, the head injury rule is very important and is there to protect players if there is a collision. But when a team is ahead and every 2 minutes a different player is getting a head injury but never leaving the field, that's a different thing. And we mentioned that on Monday, and I clearly saw Stephen Farker shout when Brendan Donaghy went down, and it was nowhere near his head. He started pointing at his head to the referee. So they're all on top of this now, and I've missed this. This is all news to me, which is a good one. But McGeaney mentioned after the game about the 10 or 12 head injuries. So they're all on top of this. They all know how to waste time. They know the only way to do it. So Fitzmaurice has come up with a suggestion, and it makes perfect sense. It seems to be logical. He said, I would say if you get a head injury and you need to be assessed, you're assessed off the pitch. And the game goes on and you can only go back on when the game stops. Straight away, that cuts it out because you're not going to leave your team short. Case closed. No more of this. And that's it. Eamon Fitzmaurice, I can't think of an argument against it.
Yeah, it is. It's hard. Bar, I suppose, you have to think of the worst scenario, I suppose, and it's all very fine until something happens. But then someone, gets a bad neck injury. What's the first thing you say? Don't move him. But it does make sense that, and I think referees, in fairness to them, probably getting it from Croke Park, if there is a head injury, you have to be very, very careful. And but there's probably a little bit of common sense used as well. If a lad is sitting up and he's holding his head, well, then probably it's okay to, or if a lad is lying down, he can't move.
It is a difficult one for referees because they're not doctors, and if they make the wrong call, they have to maybe err on being a little bit conservative and have the players' welfare, in mind.
Absolutely, because it only takes one incident of a referee tell a player to get off the field when he shouldn't, and next thing there's uproar. So it's a difficult one, and probably does need a little bit of direction from.
Bring in the stretcher like in the World Cup and the little
stomp them off.
That's something with a tractor lawnmower coming in. The big cats up.
That would be GAA style, a tractor lawnmower and a trailer. Anyways, listen, we'll move on from that because Tyrone players have got themselves in a spot of hot bother for singing a rebel song on the bus on the way home from the Cavan match. So they stopped in Ochnacloy in Tyrone, and it was the Lisgenny Flute Band, his aptly named Flute Band. But they were marching on the street as is their tradition, and the Tyrone players started singing "Come Out You Blackened Hands." Now, initially, I was thinking, this is a load of nonsense. You have Arlene Foster weighing in on it, to telling the GAA to deal with the matter in a sensible way. You had Mickey Hart saying to anyone who has been offended, we love that apology. Not really apologising, but if you're offended, I'm apologising to anyone who has been offended for the unacceptable behaviour of some of the panel on Saturday evening. The matter is being dealt with in-house and we won't make any further comment. Now, I'm sure Mickey would have been on that bus. So, like, he could have maybe stopped it on the bus or whatever. So, like, I mean, I hold my hands up if Mickey wasn't on the bus. We don't know. You'd imagine the manager was. But anyways, initially I was looking at this saying, what a load of nonsense if a team can't sing a rebel song. And that was mischievous. Somebody started that off while the band was playing outside the bus, and it's like messing in school. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to do it, but you do it. Then I read Declan Bogue's piece in the Examiner yesterday, and I kind of changed my mind a little bit, and I'm more on the line that it was stupid now. Maybe if you think you're just doing it in the privacy of a bus, it's not really stupid. It's stupid that it got out there, and I'm sure that none of the Tyrone players on the bus singing the song thought that some muppet on the bus was videoing it and then was going to send it on a WhatsApp group. So it would have been stupid if they thought this was going to get out. But I don't want to call them stupid when it was just supposed to be maybe a joke on the privacy of the bus. But he did make a few good points, and he was talking about the GAA being seen as sectarian up the north, and this doesn't help that. They're supposed to have a shared space up there, you know, Protestants and Catholics, and that doesn't help that. And my kind of attitude of this is a load of nonsense when I've never lived up there, never had to share space with people or marching bands and all that kind of thing. And now I'm thinking, yeah, it's not an ideal thing to be doing. I actually think if it was a Laois bus coming through, it wouldn't really be much of a problem. But, you know, Tyrone players in their own county living with these people should probably be a little bit more political. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Then again, they didn't know it was going to get out. It was a private thing, you know what I mean? So I don't know what to think.
And it definitely seemed like, not to excuse it anyway, but it seemed like a minority. Like you said, it was school children. It was like, you know, people giggling up the back and someone daring to sing it a little bit, but not everybody was getting involved. When I first heard it, I thought they were all chanting and, like, you know, I don't think, I'm sure the parade couldn't have heard them. Like, they were in the bus and a few of them were just sort of daring to do it. But yeah, I think it's very stupid because they're Tyrone GAA, they're one of the biggest sports teams in Ireland, so they're in a position of responsibility, they're role models.
Yeah.
And I think Declan in his piece said about them going back to work and working with Protestants or people who might be part of
They would be embarrassed, but I think they'd be embarrassed because that wasn't meant to get out. That was a private thing.
Yeah.
But anyone that's on a bus, you know, is part of the setup, and that'd be the biggest disappointment from within the group. Is that, like, all right, you know yourself, you're on a bus and you'd be out banter going on, and, you know, you'd maybe see some lad out the window and you'd be having a laugh at it or whatever the case would be, but you'd mean nothing of it. It's just a bit of crack at the time. But
it's all bravado stuff.
Yeah. But I do get the point as well that, you know, there is, whether we like it or not, and it's different. It's different even from club players. When you're playing with an intercounty, you have responsibility both on and off the field with your kind of, because people judge you, they judge where you're from, they judge the people around you on your actions. And whether that's right or wrong, that is the way it is. And yes, I don't think there's a huge amount in. I'd say it was just a bit of banter on the bus. But you do have responsibility when you decide that I'm going to play inter-county football, because everything you do, if it's only a case of you're walking up the street and you're in a bad form and someone asks you for an autograph and you keep going, all of a sudden all them Kildare lads or all them Laois lads, they're all the same, their heads are, you know, because of what your action is. So there is a bit of responsibility in them, and I think it'll just blow over, to be honest. I
know, it has blown over. Like, it's in the area of social media and everything, but you're not expecting someone on your own fecking bus to be the one putting it on social media.
That's Snapchat as well. It wasn't like they sent it to somebody on WhatsApp. They put it on Snapchat for whoever.
Do we know who put it on it?
No, the video I saw was someone recording it off Snapchat. You know, I think that's the one that's doing the rounds.
Right.
Someone held the phone to a phone while it was being played, you know, and recorded it that way. But
okay, well, it's done now, and that's it. And, like, I mean, maybe we've all learned a little bit of a lesson. Thanks to Declan Bogue's piece. I was about to go mad about this, and Declan Bogue, pretty much from reading that, has pulled my reins back completely on going, like, this is a lot of nonsense if you can't sing a rebel song.
Boys will be boys.
Okay, so Cork fans aren't happy about this weekend, but it's hard to know what the solution to this is, because Cork are obviously playing Dublin on Saturday night, then they're playing Kilkenny on Sunday. So Cork fans are up in arms about having to go to Croke Park and pay, is it €40 on Sunday for the double header and then 25 on Saturday night. They want a double header. Of course they want a double header, But what does that do to Tipperary-Laois game? It has Tipperary-Laois playing either not in Croke Park or in a half-empty Croke Park, and that's not fair on Tipperary and Laois either. So the hurling is a double header, which is fair enough, and the football is a standalone. So both Kilkenny and Cork fans are going to shout on Laois in the second game, which is fantastic for Laois as a weaker county. They'll have 3 sets of fans shouting for them. So what's the solution here? Is it to mess over Laois and Tipperary just for Cork's benefit? Or I can't see what kind of swap can kind of work this weekend to keep everybody happy, because there's always somebody giving out. It's the GAA.
Yeah. You can't keep everybody happy. Like, and this is the thing we have every year with football and hurling. There's 2 different sports being run by the one organisation. You can't keep them happy. And like, where do you take that then? Like, if Cork are playing in the league and the hurlers are playing the Saturday and the footballers are playing the Sunday, do we start saying that we want both of them games close to each other so we can go to both as well?
Yeah,
it's impossible for, like, as much stick as we give the GAA. It's impossible for them to do.
There's been examples of Laois footballers playing in a Moore Park, Laois hurlers playing in O'Connor Park, and not enough time being given for the fans to leave one to go to another. Cork have a chance to go to both, and they're given, like, there's been worse examples of fixture scheduling than this. Like, I mean, like, it's John Horan's comments of saying, well, Cork don't have dual fans anyways. That's what's inflamed it a little bit, which was a stupid thing for him to say.
Like, if they came out and said, look, this is all right, ideally we'd like to play both of them on the one day, but here's a reason for doing it, and it's the lesser of all evils. People say, well, that's fair enough, let's move on.
Yeah.
But I think the comments from John, it's been, I think, a bit disingenuous. There are lots of really good Cork or Laois or whoever that love hurling and football and love them as equal, and
they do, but now you'd have to say they follow their hurlers, but they don't follow their footballers. And stop pretending that you follow your footballers, because you don't.
No, but they follow the hurlers because the hurlers are successful. If the hurlers
traditionally that's their team.
But if the hurlers were going bad and the footballers were going well, you'd see it reversed, I would think, anyway, because people they're fickle. Like, people talk about, even in Kildare, where's all the sports gone? Sports gone because the county's not doing as well as it did. When we were playing in All-Ireland semi-finals or quarter-finals, there was such a scramble for tickets. So supporters are fickle. All right, maybe traditionally, yes, they might have a stronger hurling following than the football, but the hurlers are competitive. They're really, where the footballers are after having a few lean years, like, they're great. It's great they're back in the Super 8, and if they go on to an All-Ireland semi-final, all of a sudden then that swell of support will rise again. I think it's a problem. No matter what you do, there's going to be trouble. But I just think maybe John Horan's wording could have been a little bit better.
Could have been, but like, I mean, like, they don't come and support the footballers. We've seen that anyway. So, like, I mean, I don't think this is as big a deal. The one thing John Horan did say, which really got on my goat, is there will always be an appetite to have a game on a Saturday night. Now think of that. He knows that Saturday night is the prime spot. That's what people want and teams want. There will always be an appetite to have a game on a Saturday night, and a Dublin game is generally on a Saturday night. Like, he's actually unashamedly again.
So what can you do?
This is parish pump politics. It's ridiculous. It's basically Jackie Healy-Rae as a GAA president. Like, Kerry'd be playing in Killarney every weekend. No, but this is wrong. How many examples are we going to have of John Horan just being a true blue dub, pandering to Dublin fans? I've said this to his face when I was on Off the Ball. I said, this is ridiculous. I said, all you care about is keeping Dublin fans happy. It's wrong. So he's admitting that the prime time slot is Saturday night, and that's Dublin's. We obviously can't move that. Oh, lads, you couldn't make this up. There's just so many examples of it. It's outrageous. We have to move on.
Yeah. No, I know Dublin draw the big crowd and stuff, but like, usually a Saturday suits a team who has to travel, down the country, and then they can get back in good time. They're back on a Sunday then or whatever. But like, Dublin are playing at home most of the time. So it's strange that they have to be locked into a Saturday.
But the Dublin, I'm going to read it again. There will always be an appetite to have a game on a Saturday night, and a Dublin game is generally on a Saturday night. No more debate about this. That's the Dublin get the best spot, and like, I mean, we all know that, and we'll just okay. Kieran Donaghy, lads. So we didn't get a chance to mention Kieran Donaghy, who's been moved on from his position as London manager, which I find incredible considering the very good job he's done. He got within 4 points of Galway. Let's think about this. Now, this is London, whose team changes yearly, whose panel changes yearly. He's developed London players. He's made it his priority to have a London captain, to bring in more London players and have a proper base. He's had Harry Redknapp talking to the team. He's brought in professional backroom team from soccer backgrounds into the London setup, right? This is all being done for free as a labour of love from Kieran Donaghy. And then you have him, no meeting, no end of season review, as there usually would be. The executive met together and decided not to bring him back in, right? He got a phone call from the secretary out of the blue. No contact since then by the chairman or any member of the executive. Isn't that outrageous, lads? It really
It's outrageous. It's bordering on disgraceful. Regardless of whether they decided he's been there long enough, to treat anybody that's put in so much effort like that is nothing short of disgraceful to me. You know, we see what he's done. We've seen the profession, and like he's not just a fly-by manager that's going to come in, you know, a quick sort of uphill graft and then gone and no develop. He's looking to develop long term. He's brought in a very professional. You only have to look at him and listen to him on different interviews he did. He sees the long term progression to try to bring London from, let's be honest, nowhere to competing. You know, whether it be bringing them up the leagues or whatever, and a sustainable future for long term development in London. And they ring him and tell him thanks, good luck. Like, that's, I think I'd feel very, very sorry for him, and I'm sure there's lots of things going on in his head. But you know, I'd say he's disappointed, he's hurt. I'd say he's angry at that because, and I'm sure a lot of the players wouldn't be happy with it either. It just looks like, you know what, from the outside looking, you're getting a bit big for your boots. Good luck.
I think so. Well, he was complaining. He tweeted out pictures of where they train, and they train on soccer pitches and all sorts. So unless the county board got the little bit of a hump out of that, I don't know. I would think if you're a county board and you have a manager who's bringing in a professional backroom team on his own, through his own contacts, I would be saying that job's for you, and the results are good. I would be saying, listen, that job is yours for as long as you want it. You're making our life very, very easy. You're doing a lot of the donkey work that we'd be doing. It's certainly not getting rid of a man without even the decency of a phone call from the chairman or an end of season review or an explanation, you know, as to why you're being let go. Anyways, listen, when it comes to county boards, nothing surprises you, and apparently London County Board leaves a lot to be desired. You know, I suppose you have to wonder what kind of level of professionalism they have over there.
And you wonder where they're going to go from here. Like, you know,
who are they going to get?
Yeah, but if you're going to get someone, you want to bring in someone that's going to build and it's going to bring something different and improve the work that's already been done. Where are they going to go from there?
Yeah, I don't know where they are. They're not jumping out at you over there. Have to give the Laois under 21 and under 20s a shout out here, lads. I turned the hurling show into a Laois podcast on Monday. I will not do that with the football show today. But they hammered Meath on Tuesday night. They haven't been in a final since 2009, and they played Dublin now on Friday week in the Leinster final. So, like, I mean, that's a huge result. They had Mark Barry and Sean O'Flynn, who were in with the Laois seniors and weren't allowed play, and now that Laois were out, they got those two lads back, and they're two top class players. They have Matthew Byron in goals. You'll know that name very, very well. It's Fergal's son, who I remember, geez, it makes you feel very old when you have him playing. Like, I remember him when he was 3 and 4, just coming around with us. Like Joe Higgins' sons are playing with St. Joseph's. How old are we here, lads? Or me and you, Johnny, anyways. They have a full forward, Dan McCormack, lads. You'll have to keep your eye out for. He's about 6'7", a monster of a man. So, like, they have a big, strong physical team. Billy O'Loughlin is their manager. And so far, they've beaten Kildare, who are All-Ireland champions, away. They beat Westmeath away, and they beat Meath at home. So, like, Meath, obviously very good underage. Now, I think Conlon and a couple of their better players are in with Meath seniors. So the under-20 is a weird grade. You don't have your full team. Do you know, you might be hoping your senior team is knocked out before that is knocked out, so you get the likes of Mark Barry and Sean O'Flynn back for Laois, which is a strange one. But anyways, that Leinster final against Dublin, Laois will be underdogs, I'm sure. He's in O'Connor Park at 7:30 on Friday week. Last story of the day is Sean Kavanagh. Sean Kavanagh has been very opinionated recently, and he has a bit of a bee in his bonnet about Kerry. And I have no problem with all of this because it's a bit of drama, and it's, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with somebody giving a strong opinion. He says he's talking about the headline here. It was in, I can't remember where it was. I think it could have been in the Independent, and he was talking about Paddy O'Shea calling the Kerry fans animals, and Sean Kavanagh completely agrees with him. Now, I've seen Kerry fans and I've seen Tyrone fans, and I if the Kerry fans are animals, I'm not sure what you would describe Tyrone fans as, or an element of Tyrone fans. But anyways, he was talking about the game in 2012 where Kerry finally beat Tyrone. It was in the qualifiers down in Killarney. Now, my opinion is Kerry over-celebrated that. Like, Jesus, they'd beaten you in 3 All-Irelands, or 2 All-Irelands and a semi-final. I can see where it's coming from, but still you're Kerry, and you should be bigger than that. It was only a qualifier game. Anyways, he said it was a strange day in 2012. Their fans were riled on the terraces. They beat us well. They beat us out the gate. And I thought, Jesus, these guys are absolute dogs. Sean Kavanagh, who's played in Tyrone club football. But anyways, we'll continue on. And then I remember as we're leaving the changing room, walking out to the team bus, where hundreds of Kerry supporters all clapping us, either side of us as we were walking through. Now, I remember this going on, that Kerry actually applauded Tyrone out of Killarney. And that Kerry fans, whatever you say about them, they're respectful, and I don't think there's any... They're genuine GAA people, and I have no doubt they were clapping Tyrone out as great All-Ireland champions, and look, we beat you, but here's in a respectful way. Yeah. Here's Kavanagh's take on it. They were backslapping us. Yous are great lads, and all this. To me, it seemed a wee bit patronising. Like, I mean, isn't it mad where these top-level players' heads are at? They'll turn a nice gesture into, when we play them again, they won't clap us out of the stadium again. Like, isn't that a strange one, that they call them kind of animals that agree with Paddy for a really nice thing?
Yeah, suck motivation out of anywhere. It's funny, like, it reminded me of, do you know when you get beat by a club team and then the manager comes in and says, oh, you're a good wee club, you're doing a lot of good work up there. Yeah. You see the lovely new pitch you have, and it's really annoying, but this is Tyrone, All-Ireland champions, who are actually at the top level.
And have beaten them.
Yeah, so there's no reason to really patronise. No. Maybe Kerry actually did respect it. It took them so long to beat them.
Well, if they didn't respect him in 03, and they might not have respected him in 05, they gained to respect him by the time 08 came around.
And I remember the one part at the end of that game, and there was a great picture in the paper at the time of Paul Galvin and Mickey Hart sort of embracing, and you could sense the respect that was there from that. Now, listen, we don't know, there's different claps on the back you can get, maybe the tone Tyrone, but I wouldn't have thought that of the Kerry fans. And I think, even when Paddy talked about animals, I think it's a case of, there's no room for grace. You go in, you get the job done.
And we knew what Paddy meant there, yeah.
Yeah, so calling them, they're like dogs. I think it is a bit much.
Well, keep it coming, Sean. It's given us plenty to talk about. Right, listen, we'll be back with some Mayo Kerry analysis. So Mayo are the only side to beat Kerry this year, and they haven't just done it once, they've done it twice. So Kerry have gone unbeaten throughout the year, except for Mayo beating them down in Tralee in the league and then in Croke Park in the league final. And there's loads of spices to this, lads. There's James Horan saying they should have won the league final by 10 to 12 points. Eamon Fitzmaurice has bitten back at that, and he's cranked it up a notch. I'll see your 10 to 12 points, and I'll talk about your gamesmanship and cynicism. And then he's talking about that. So there's no shortage of motivating factors. More maybe for Kerry, I would say, than Mayo potentially. But like, obviously Mayo can twist the Fitzmaurice stuff into whatever way they want to do that.
Yeah, and it's one I'm really looking forward to as well, because it's down in Fitzgerald Stadium. It's sort of, you're thinking of, like, it's a bit like the Limerick game down in Limerick, and what a battle that was. You're always going to get that this time of the year. I suppose the Kerry side of things is, they get the bouquets are coming at their forwards, and the daggers are coming for their defence, and we've heard a lot about how weak they are defensively, and I'm sure Mayo will look to exploit that as well. But it's handbags at dawn between, everyone's looking for the little edge, and I suppose, the fact that Eamon Fitz now is away from the Kerry scene, he's has the platform to throw in whatever he wants to throw in at them now, and he's stepped away from it. But it's to me, it has the ingredients of being another brilliant game, and it's one I'm really looking forward to. I think you're going to see a little bit of a meaner Kerry side. I don't think this criticism that's coming at them from the point of view of that they're defensively weak, and maybe David Moore is not the colossus he was around the middle and all this sort of thing. I think we talk about the Kerry animals. I think the Kerry players won't accept that.
Oh yeah, because the analysis
they're very proud.
Yeah, yeah, and the analysis was they were bullied in the league final, and that analysis is correct. And they seem
and they
to
won't
be,
like that, because
the
one thing you do want, and the few times I played against Kerry, is they won't be bullied, and maybe a lot of the Minehans and the O'Shea's. These boys wouldn't be bullied, but that's not something that sits well in Kerry. And do you know, I went down to Miko's 80th down in Kerry, you know, and we played, just to give you an idea of the competitiveness that there. We played an All-Ireland selection against a Kerry selection, and I was playing full forward on Barry O'Shea, and the first ball came out, and of course I turned and put it over the bar. The second ball got a little handy offload from I'm not sure, and tapped it over the bar. And the next thing I can remember was pulling myself off the ground. Moynihan was after stepping into me as if to say, none of that around here. And he absolutely cleaned me. And I had to try pulling myself off the ground and say, that didn't hurt. And he shook every bone in my body. You know, there's no one coming.
Moynihan was the greatest, really.
But that sort of gave me the mentality of Kerry, you know. This was a Mickey Mouse, like on a Saturday or a Friday evening down in Kerry.
Yeah.
You know, so...
They don't make them like Moynihan on that Kerry team anymore.
No.
Do they? Morley was the only one you could say maybe he was in that type of mould, you know, warrior mould. They don't seem to be making those warriors.
But
do
they're a really proud footballing county, and that sort of stuff being thrown at them, it wouldn't sit well with them.
Yeah. Now I don't want to sell Seamus Moynihan short and just calling him a warrior. He's a warrior plus an absolutely incredible player as well. So Kerry have to fix their defence. Everybody knows that. How did they do that? Number one, they don't play Jack Sherwood as the sweeper because he didn't seem to know how to do it. So if you want to play Jack Sherwood, I'm not sure where you're going to play him, because number 6 dropping back covering the house against Cork was absolutely ineffective. They need to find somebody who can do that. Who is it? Who's the man to do that? Is it Thomas Sullivan? Maybe they might have the brain to cover over and back and maybe affect the game going forward. Like, I mean, there's a couple of different things they can do. Like, I mean, one of your halfbacks stay in position, right? So that's what they tried to do with Sherwood, only Sherwood wasn't very good at that. I wouldn't abandon that idea, because Mayo half forward line, you can let one of them off and then have somebody drop onto them. You know, you'll have Diarmuid O'Connor maybe on the half forward line. He can pick up Kevin McLaughlin, say, if he drops into midfield, and you drop, right? And everybody move up a line then. Whoever's marking Chris Barrett in the full-back line then drop out onto Diarmuid O'Connor's man, whatever like that. But they just need to find a man that's able to play that sweeper role effectively. Not really a sweeper role, but a covering half-back kind of role, because they have to fix their defence. The problem is when you use your centre back to cover back in front of the full back line, you're leaving that number 6 channel open, which is a big problem for theirs. All this, they're breaking straight through the middle, you know, and that's a big problem with Kerry. What's the solution there? Drop David Moran back to number 6 and have someone pick up his man. Do you know what I mean? Moran can drop off Stephen Cohen potentially, who'll be in midfield, who won't cause a huge amount of damage going forward. You don't want to drop off Aidan O'Shea. They're going to have to find a defensive system that when whoever plays 6, I'd play Thomas Sullivan there, tell him to drop. When he drops out of the number 6 position, David Moran drops in there. Then you've got your half forward line dropping back to Moran's man. You have your corner forward dropping onto the wing forward, and you're leaving Chris basically at the end of your transition to your defensive system. Chris Barrett's the one that ends up free. Doesn't that make sense?
Yes, but I think it's very hard to do against Mayo. Like, even what you're saying makes perfect sense. Just keep dropping them back a line and pass them over. But Mayo, they'll play the 6 forwards, and then I think the half backs will come forward if you drop Diarmuid O'Connor back, say. So it's almost like everybody does need to be.
Well, whoever's marking Colin Boyle could drop back, because Boyle tends to hold off and potentially sweep. Now, he swept against Galway because Shane Walsh was such a threat. Like, the argument might be that Boyle might not sweep against Kerry because they like to mess up Kerry's half forward line. I think the whole of Mayo's half back line will be told, get forward at every opportunity, leave that huge gap, and Kerry struggle to fill that gap then. You know, there's too much of this is the analysis from the league find, there's a huge disconnect then, and Kerry don't like that hand passing game out with the fence, and let's pin them back in there. You know what I mean? So there's going to be all this going on. Yeah,
there's so many ifs, buts and ands to try contemplate and get your head around. You know, obviously the Kerry are going to want that running game. Obviously going to try get Sean O'Shea on the ball as much as possible, because he the direct runner at goal causes problems. Getting as much ball into Clifford and Gainey inside. So it's Kerry, you know, you can look to get the defensive aspect of it right, but yet you don't want to take from the attacking, which is a really strong point. To me, Paul Murphy could play that role that you're talking about. He's a really intelligent footballer.
Yeah, swept before against Mayo in Croker.
Yeah, it didn't really work. But I still think he has the footballing smarts to do it. All right, you know, I wouldn't write him off maybe after one game. I think he still has he's a good ball player. He seems to read the game very well, and you know, that transition from defence to attack, I think he's really good at that. You know, even he's played. I know he spent a bit of time in the half forward line.
Maybe you don't need a sweeper because it's going
maybe
to be
not an out and out sweeper.
Yeah, O'Connor
you know.
and Conan are going to be in there, and they're not the fastest. So if you can't back your two full back lines and offer that kick pass to Mayo, but tell your centre back then, don't ever leave the centre back position. Hold that channel and stop at all costs anyone breaking down that middle. We can't have that, and leave your 2-on-2 inside.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, what I think is more important, is shutting down Kevin McLaughlin and Jason Doherty, who are going to win ball out around 45, and that's where Mayo use their attacks to attack from. But like, so getting those matchups right is probably like absolutely crucial here for Kerry. The only problem is like, again, I'm sort of looking at, like, they just don't have that collective sort of responsibility again. So if they are man for man, that's grand. But if there's danger, are they going to pass it over or say, right, I'm marking Kevin McLaughlin, but he is no longer important anymore to this attack, so I can come back into that channel and make sure there's no goal here.
That's what they're not good at.
Like,
they're not instinctive defenders, and they don't pawn problems off.
Well, that's
and the problem is, you're on him, mark him. That's nonsense. That's under 12 stuff.
Yeah.
You that's within reason. There's
Yeah,
a time when you don't have to follow him, and that's when
Absolutely.
smart players let him off, and I'm going to help him out. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't see enough of that with
No,
Kerry.
you do. You need to decide. Okay, my man is no longer a danger. I have to go and find danger. Where's the most danger? And if the ball is popped out and to Kevin McLaughlin, for argument's sake, and he puts it over from outside the 45, he said, "Well, look, very little."
Well
we can do
done.
with that."
And I've still stopped a potential goal.
Exactly. So you got to read it. You know, like, you're looking for, if that ball is coming down the left hand side, you're looking for your half back to tuck in to try eliminate that crossfield ball. And if it does come that a full back and get a hand to it, and all of a sudden you have a half back coming mopping up because he decided, my man is out the field and I don't need to worry about I'm reading the game, and that's what you're looking, and that's what you're expecting from a lot of these players, to have the football and smarts to be able to read the game.
Yeah,
know?
no, exactly. So that's the Kerry defence. So, like, I mean, I think maybe the solution after trashing it out here is to not play a full-time sweeper and tell the centre-back never leave that centre and not have anyone breaking down that middle, because that is a huge criticism of Kerry. The other problem with Kerry against Mayo is the disconnect between because Mayo's half forward line is going to attack half back line is going to attack so much. Kerry half forward line is dragged following them. Now Kerry turned the ball over, they look up. There's no kick pass on to the full forward line because it's too far away. So their solution in the league final was to bring James O'Donoghue, and they tried James O'Donoghue, Clifford and different ones on the 40. Now I saw that happening with Galway the other night, and I've kind of changed my mind on this because Shane Walsh had a really difficult job. He was being man-marked tight by Durkin. So when lads were looking up, and there was a kick pass on because Colin Boyle was staying back, right? And so then they looked up, and Colin Boyle was covering the side, maybe the ball's coming down. Then they're looking at Walsh trying to run over and back, and that link ball wasn't really even on, so Galway couldn't get that going. So now I'm thinking Kerry should play with a formation of 2 on the half forward line and just leave Clifford inside. Kerry will be forced to play Boyle in front of Clifford because you're not going to leave Boyle inside. You know, if they're going to play an extra man back, he's going to have to watch Clifford because he's a sensation. So then you might have Stephen O'Brien and James O'Donoghue. They're the two I would have picked to be on that 40 and to be constantly moving. And Mayo will be doing well to cover them and cover inside as well. Do you know what I mean? Because when you leave 3 in there, usually the formation is to put 1 out in front and 2 inside.
Yeah.
Why not overload the 45 metre line and just leave Clifford inside? Because you can't leave Clifford in there without someone covering him.
No, you can't. You can't leave it in a one-on-one situation in there. And
so would that be a better formation for Kerry then?
Yeah, I think there's merit to changing it the whole time. I mean, but I said it on this show the last time I was on. You need an outlet, at very least one outlet on the half forward line, because other than that, you're gone from an option of kicking to a running game. And as you rightly point out, you know, with Mayo the last day covered Shane Walsh there, and he was killed trying to get on ball, and you could see it in him. He was really trying to get on ball, but just every avenue he went to, it was clogged with a Mayo man, and they nullified his threat. So I suppose the other thing is as you rightly point out, is to let's change this. Let's pack our half forward line, that we do have options, and if they can get enough ball onto the half forward line, it makes it then that little pop pass into Clifford, because
diagonal pass. Now I'm dropping Paul Geaney. But
Yeah,
this is it's a huge call, but what can you do? Geaney can't play that half forward line. I think this is really important, that link man wasn't working in the league final, And I think you need 2 link men. And I think Stephen O'Brien, James O'Donoghue are those 2 players.
Where are you playing Sean O'Shea in this?
Sean, well, he's kind of working from midfield, kind of back. Like he goes fairly far back. You know what I mean? He's never one of those 3. Do you know? I'm talking about how we can split those 3. Sean O'Shea is trying to get back up with the play then as well. Do you know what I mean? He has an engine, but he's never one of your top 3 lads. Do you know that kind of way?
Well, the problem with him is that Patrick Durkin did so well on him in the league final
Did
as
Lee
well.
Keegan not mark him in the league final? I thought Keegan marked him.
Durkin took him a fair bit of it as well. Like, you know, I remember a couple of intercepts in the sideline, like sort of loving it in his face and stuff as well, and just off the back of his success against Shane Walsh.
I was at a stag. I have some friends from Ken Mayer, Sean O'Shea's club, obviously, and Sean O'Shea went back to Ken Mayer training after playing Mayo and went, I've never seen it, I've never played against anything like that. Yeah. The in your face, the intensity, the strength, it was a wake up call to him at that level, that this is this is Mayo who are playing with Dublin. Like, Sean O'Shea might have played league games, but he never played in Croke Park, and Mayo bring what Dublin, you know what I mean? This was the highest level that it was a huge wake up call to him, the level that he kind of needed to get to, and I thought it was a really interesting one.
Yeah, but he's only a boy too. He's 19 years of age, you know, and we're talking about him as if he's the one of the star men, which he has been. Like, you know, he's been in the headlights for the headlines for the reason. And I think you'll see a different Sean O'Shea at the weekend. I think, you know, he's learning all the time. He's a really smart footballer. I think he's the real deal. I put him in the same bracket. He's a different type of player than Clifford, but as an important player to Kerry, I put him in the same bracket as Clifford. I think he's so he's learning all the time, and you know, I think, you know, when you talk about that learning lesson, I think that's probably the best thing that happened to that Kerry team, who might be that league final against Mayo, because, you know, Mayo in Croke Park, they're a seasoned team. You know, they've been all right. You know, and even when they obviously they haven't won, but they've competed so well against the Dublins in that cauldron of Croke Park. Yeah. They know it inside out. For a young lad that's all right, you know, some of these Kerry players come up. It's a big difference in playing in a league final and a minor final. You know, the crowd, the physicality of it all. So, you know, there's a learning curve for the Cliffords and the O'Sheas of this world, and Dara Mine and them. But I think they'll learn very quick.
Yeah. What do you think, Conan?
I think Kerry need a big game out of Jack Barry. I think
he's in very bad form. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he might not start.
This is his 3rd season now, you know, and I think there comes a time when, you know, there's a really good player and they're very young and bursting onto the scene very young, but the manager earns the right at some stage to come along to him and say, you need to get your finger out now and start dominating games for us, because you can do it and you're not doing it. And like, last time they played Mayo, it was him and Killian O'Connor, I think, in midfield. David Moran's back. There's no Matthew Rowan. There's no Tom Parsons, no Seamus O'Shea. He needs to go and win this game for them. Like, when he came onto the scene, we were saying they finally have somebody they can test with Fenton. Brian Fenton. You know, like that's what Jack Barry should be doing.
Like, I mean, he man-marked Fenton, and maybe that's his role going on and dogging someone out of it. Is he able to actually influence a game himself? Is he good enough to do that?
So dynamic, like, isn't he?
Yeah, he's more of a direct, powerful runner rather than dynamic. You know, like, I mean, he's not much of a passer, and I don't know. I have a feeling Spillane could start. Adrian Spillane could start for him.
They are struggling. They're not all right. I know David Moran is struggling with injuries, but they're struggling to find a partner for him. It seems to be, you know, one of 3 different players that are coming in there, and like Jack Barry I've seen him playing with UCD now, and you know, on his day, I think he's a fantastic footballer. But again, you're going to the next level, and that's the thing. And I think you're right. I think Peter Keane will be saying to him, it's time to you know, deliver, or it's, you know, you step aside and let someone else in, because he does. There's a big game expected of him, and if, you know, David Moore, he's a long time ago, and you're looking for, you know, his experience out around the middle, his physicality, and Jack Barry to be a up and down the field type player that's going to link there and get on the end of attacks to kick scores and that. So there's a bit of pressure on him, but sometimes, you know, when the gun is put to your head, you do deliver, and I'd be expecting him to, as you rightly point out, to deliver a big performance in these Super 8s.
Yeah, so neither of you are agreeing with me that Paul Geaney. Now, I'm only dropping Paul Geaney for this game because it doesn't suit him, right? So he's back on straight away. Himself and Clifford are in the next game, because the next game they'll be playing someone whose half back line won't all go forward. So you might leave Stephen O'Brien, might not need to be chasing. He can hold the 40 with James O'Donoghue. You know, I think you have to have 2.5 forward line. And I genuinely think whenever Kerry lose to Mayo, it's because Mayo have brought Kerry into a game that Kerry can't beat them at. And that is a running, a hand passing game. And Mayo pin them in. Kerry like to move the ball on through the foot. Mayo take that off them. And for them to have a kicking game, they need 2.5 forward line. If they want 2.5 forward line, they need to play 2 of their full forward line on the half forward line. That leaves Clifford inside. That leaves no room for Paul Geeney.
Yeah, I just don't think.
Come on, it makes sense here, lads. It's a brave call, but listen, you have to.
You have to put your neck on the block. I'm not sure. I'm not as sure about James O'Donoghue out there either. To be honest with you,
he plays that role though. That's his role.
Yeah, but he gets it and does nothing with it. He's popping it off, and like Stephen O'Brien's getting it and taking men on or playing it inside. O'Donoghue's not affecting it.
But O'Donoghue, that's his role in that front three, is to play out in front of the other two.
Yeah, but would you be better having? I know it's harder to get.
It's
the
probably
ball,
because he's the only one of the three that's comfortable. He's the most comfortable of the three doing it. Right?
But can you see him winning the ball and then finding Clifford? And I don't see him doing that enough recently.
I think on his own, it's going to be hard for him. I think with Stephen O'Brien and them making some cross runs and maybe bringing the extra man. No, I actually think the extra man will be in on Clifford in this. I think this is a completely ingenious plan to make Boyle go back further, mark Clifford, and then leave the 2.5 forward line without the same cover.
Would they bring Clifford to the half forward line?
Or it might be Higgins actually even sweeping. You don't know. Would they bring Clifford?
Yeah,
they did in the league
inside,
final,
yeah.
but I think that's madness. Like, I mean, this is Clifford. You're really bringing a Ferrari out where he onto a lane onto an old country road. Yeah, you're bringing it off.
You're really degrading the half forward, considering you played a lot there yourself, Colin.
Yeah, well, listen, I couldn't do what Clifford could do inside, or I would have been playing inside a lot more. I don't know, lads. It is definitely interesting. I thought we'd focus the analysis on what Kerry do at the back and what Kerry do to bridge the gap. So, like, I mean, I think they're the two things people need to look out for at the weekend. We've talked loads about Mayo. We know what they're all about. We've done enough analysis on them. I think Donny Vaughan's going to need to be marked. Lee Keegan's going to need to mark. Durkin's going to need to mark. That's where they're going to try and hurt Kerry. Aidan O'Shea will be told to go forward a lot more. They'll try and hurt Kerry that way. Maybe the kick pass is on. Maybe the kick pass isn't on. Mayo have a much stronger look about them now. There's no doubt about that.
Aidan O'Shea seemed to hold that midfield a lot more. He didn't get forward as much against Galway, which
well, he had his work cut out with Cook. Cook likes to kick a point. You see, that's the thing. So he was kind of chasing around after him.
He was chasing, and he looked under pressure for lots of that game. You know, even when he got ball, he was just nearly happy to offload it and sit in the hole. Maybe his tongue was down around his ankles after chasing Peter Cook, because Cook had a fantastic game.
Fantastic first half. Yeah, he definitely did. So it's hard to know. We'll get predictions here on this. Kerry are very, very strong favourites on this. They're 4-7. Mayo are 15-8. So you're getting 2-1 on Paddy Power for Mayo, which is a great. Kerry, I think there's a stat, haven't lost in Fitzgerald Stadium since '95 or something like that. All these things have to be factored in. I'm going to let the two of you go first. Johnny, you.
I think them odds are ridiculous. I think it's
ridiculous on Mayo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but I just think Kerry. I'm going to give Kerry the nod for this one. I think the Fitzgerald Stadium is definitely going to be, even though the Mayo crowd will get it around it.
They take the crowd home advantage off you. Yeah.
I think the familiarity of it to Kerry. I think if their forwards click, I think they might just have a little bit too much. But it's I wouldn't be giving those odds. I think it's very evenly matched. But I just give because you're putting me under pressure, I'll give it the nod to Kerry.
Right. I think it's a 50-50 game. I can't see where they're getting these odds from.
I'm going to go with Mayo, actually. That probably shows you. Johnny's going Kerry, I'm going Mayo, so it probably is 50-50, but you can't get a better set of defenders that you could choose than Mayo. Like,
no.
Perfect for every single player that you'll come up against, and I think that always stands to them, and it just nullify. Like, we're talking about how are Kerry going to get free and get the ball and take Clifford. This is Kerry, like we were talking about, they're going to beat teams by scoring more than them, but even when they're playing Mayo, it's like they're just not going to have all that space. And
see, that's the thing, and it's just sorry to cut you off, but like, I mean, obviously for Kerry, that gap is not going to be there for set plays, for kickouts. But you can't see Kerry dominating the kickouts. Yeah. Like, I mean, Mayo are strong in that department, and Mayo are very good around the breaking balls. So, you know, you can't see Kerry. Obviously the set plays and kickouts are where Kerry will have their half forward line in place. You know, but you can't see them getting enough domination in that area to be getting scores that way.
And then like Killian O'Connor coming back, it's just been the right time for Mayo. These 2 points against Armagh were so crucial. Like, they might have missed a couple of those frees. They won by a point in the end. And then just like You were talking about it on Monday, like the outside Libit free that he won off Kane. But I thought that was hilarious because Conan was trying to make a short run and then he got held and he was screaming at the umpire and there's a bit of chaos and fighting going on, and then O'Connor just stuck it over anyway. Like, there's no need for all this nonsense.
Yeah.
And that's what he brings to them, and I think it'll stand to them.
Yeah, I'm going to go sneak. God, lads, this is such a 50-50. I'm going to go for a draw. Like, I find it hard to come down strong on either way. I think Kerry will definitely be up for it. But the jury's out on how good Kerry are, if we're being completely honest. The jury's not out on how good Mayo are. And Mayo, I think the fans are a big thing. They could split 50-50 down there with the Mayo travelling support, and I'll take that away from Kerry. I do take the Fitzgerald Stadium being a slight advantage, but I have Mayo being slightly ahead of Kerry in the progression, at the moment. And all those tactical issues Kerry have, Mayo are just going to go out and play their own. They're not necessarily worrying. All the analysis here is what do Kerry do against Mayo? Mayo really kind of know how to maybe match up against Kerry and have the backs, like you say. So I think Mayo are maybe potentially in a good position. I'll go for a draw. We'll come back with Paddy Power predictions and look at the other games. Okay, so Paddy Power predictions. We're going to start with Dublin and Cork. So Alan Brogan was writing, I think it was in the Evening Herald, and he says, we all want to see teams having a go and show a bit of ambition and creativity, and I wouldn't worry about Cork's ability to generate scoring chances on Saturday evening. The problem for them is, against Dublin, it comes at an extremely expensive cost at the back. For me at this stage, that's scaremongering. I want to see a team try it, right? Because here's the thing, and I keep talking about this in the analysis against Dublin. What's the high risk pass? Is it a hand pass or a kick pass? It's a kick pass, as we all know. Why not give Dublin that kick pass? Because it's higher risk and you have a better chance of turning that kick pass over inside. So all the analysis years ago was we have to protect the full back line, we have to intercept these kick passes, and it took years for teams to realise, shit, we better stop kicking because there's a sweeper in there and he's actually intercepting all our passes. So then teams realised what the story is, and they went back to hand passing a lot and avoiding the sweeper, to the point where Mark McHugh said to me, my form completely dropped because teams stopped kicking the ball to me, right? Which is fair enough. So now the teams are completely anti-kicking. Now Dublin are a kicking team. They want to get it inside, right? So why not give them the high-risk option instead of taking away the high-risk option by playing men back and letting them go through the low-risk option, so they're going to get through you without you turning it over. See, this makes perfect sense, and Dublin will take a while to adapt. Meath showed us, without a full-time sweeper, one-on-one defending, pressure out the field, that a defender can get a fist pass in. Suddenly you're getting the breaking ball, your centre-back's running back, getting the breaking ball for that, you're on the attack. Think how hard it is to get the ball off them when they're in the possession mode. Like, it makes no sense. Don't play my new analysis of Dublin, do not play a full-time sweeper against them. Kind of goad them into giving that kick pass, and by the time Mannion collects it, he'll be out from goals. Then have somebody come back maybe from the half back line and try and double up on him, but offer them the kick pass. They'll take it. That's what they want. Then after 20 minutes, maybe drop back a full-time sweeper. You know what I mean? When Dublin have gotten into the kick, now we're kick passing, throw a spanner in the works, put someone back then to intercept them. Don't, because you often see Dublin even at Meath at half time. It took them till half time to come out in the second half and play it a bit more through the hands and come back to the running game. Do you get me? Like, I mean, why make it so easy on Dublin by doing things that you're potentially expecting or giving them half time? Why not mix it up with them?
Scaring me a little bit with no sweeper talk, but I think what Kieran was alluding to the Monday afterwards is that Meath has some of the stickiest backs in Ireland as well. So it's only a high risk pass if the defenders are that tight.
Yeah, but mark them from the front. Like, I mean, definitely have them coached that you're marking from the front. Dublin's half forward line likes to drop back. Scully, Howard, whoever's there. So now all of a sudden Dublin have that same issue that Kerry have, the huge disconnect that every forward hates, and your full back line's marking from the front. And you're not a man down out the field. You're not giving them Cian O'Sullivan, who's going to feck you over on the other end, who's going to mess you up. Because we know this. Here's a scoreline I was thinking. Meath scored 170, or Dublin scored 117 against Meath. Would you think an outrageous scoreline at the end of the game on Saturday night would be Dublin 117, Cork 312? Who wins the game? You have to think of getting goals the other end, or 4-9. 4-9 to 117. If Cork are thinking, let's try and do what Meath did. Let's not play a full-time sweeper. Let's get them in, get a fist in. Let's be tenacious. Let's mark from the front, and let's put loads of pressure out the field. And let's try and keep them to 117. How do we beat 117? 4-9. How do you get 4-9? You can't give them a sweeper or you won't get to 4-9. Hurley and Collins can cause problems. The problem is the conservative nature, and Alan Brogan is saying, don't do this, lads. You know you're going to get screwed. Well, you're going to lose by giving Dublin a sweeper because they've the best sweeper in the business, right? And if the best defence, them and Mayo have the best one-on-one or best defenders as a group, for example. But you can definitely get at them if you play 2-on-2, and Dublin will play 2-on-2. They did it against Laois until they start seeing maybe a goal or two go in. Then Brian Howard might drop back or someone will drop back. Then you have them in defensive mode, not you.
Yeah, you're definitely. I would agree to a point. I think you're definitely going to have to push up at them and try play your own game, because you know you can keep the score down and all that, but eventually they just wear you down. And the one thing they don't do, and they never do, is panic. You never see that in the Dublin. They'll work it into a scoring area. You'll never see them shooting from ridiculous angles. They'll always work it into an area where they're going to get a high percentage of landing the score. And for me, the teams that have Meath were the last team to beat them in Leinster, put 5 goals by them. That's 2010. So it is going to take something different, some bit of a creative plan, something different to cause them problems. Very much easier said than done with Dublin. They just seem to be able to deal with whatever game plan people come.
But I'd love to see it.
Absolutely.
You know, I'd love to see and not giving Dublin the full time. The problem is they play Sean White as centre forward and he plays back in midfield. Immediately I'm looking at that going, oh shit, he's not going to be followed. Hurley's not going to get goals. Do you know what I mean? Straight away you have to think, don't give Dublin the sweeper. Let's try out their defenders, even if it's only for the first 15 minutes, and say, White, I want you holding the 40. I want all of you holding the 40, unless you have to follow Jack McCaffrey, but you're resetting onto that 40. Dublin won't play a sweeper then. In general, they won't. Now, they have flirted with Scully and Howard going back there. We saw that. Yeah. Who was that against? Against Kildare. So maybe Dublin are preparing for this potentially happening. Yeah,
but and they do play a sort of an out-and-out sweep. But loads of times in the Kildare match, and I was watching really strong for loads and loads of times, even though they had Kildare well beaten in the end, they got their appetite for work. They got so many lads behind the ball. There was lots of times where there's only one lad inside their own half. They get
Dublin
though.
Yeah, but when you watch them though, they're goal side of their man. They're facing their man. They're actually avoiding having their man have the jump on them, right? So you watch them. They're not dropping back without having an eye on where their man is, because a lot of the time you're just standing idle beside your man. He takes off and you're chasing desperately to catch up with him. Dublin have gone conservative enough that they'll stand maybe 5 yards goal side of where their man is. So my answer with Cork half back line is, don't want to see you attacking. I don't want to see you attacking. Stay where you are. All you're going to do is let Dublin drift on 10 yards ahead of you, and now all of a sudden Dublin will have too many men back.
Yeah, but you also have to realise with Dublin, and this is what I think makes Dublin exceptional, is those players, we talked about it earlier, is those players have the smart to say, you know, what am I doing back here? Am I effective? Where's my man? You know, and the Howards of this world getting back there, yes, but they're effective. They're clogging the defence, and they have the pace to carry it forward. And their football smarts are very strong. They don't give away the ball simply. You very seldom see them kicking away the ball. You know, and I'm sure there's times even the Dublin supporters would love to see them, you know, when they turn over a ball, put it 40 yards. But they don't do that. They look to keep the ball at all times. And that's what makes them really, really strong. They're very, very defensive. That half back line comes back, or the half forward.
Yeah, no, right Howard back. And Scully do drop back anyways. Even I'm talking about the other four. The other four wouldn't as much.
Not as much, but when you watch it the next day, they do get an awful lot of men behind the ball, but their fitness, and I suppose it's drilled into them at this stage. And the big thing for them, they don't vary from that. They know it's successful. You know, it was half time in the Meath game. Meath were still, you know, reasonably well in the game, and they think, and all of a sudden then Dublin just kick on playing their game plan. They don't deviate from it, and that's what really makes them an exceptional team. But I think Cork are going to have to do something different, and the problem from Cork is now you know, are they going to be able to change their game plan now in such a short space of time to try? You know, do they have the footballers with that footballing brain that are able to lots of really good footballers, but are able to change the game plan in such a short space of time, and the pressure on the management to do that, because if it does and it doesn't work and you're beating out the gate and so, what were they doing? You know, so there's pressure on it the whole time, but you have to have you know, the management are going to have show a little bit of balls here and decide, right, this is what we're going to do. We could live or die by it, and do push it, because the Mark Collins and the Hurleys of this world, you know, they're capable of getting goals.
So they scored 10 goals in 3 games. Now this is against more inferior opposition, although Kerry are definitely not inferior opposition. Against Laois, Collins scored 1-4 from play, set up 1-2 for Hurley. Hurley scored 2-4, set up 1-2 for Collins. So like, I mean, this is clearly where they're strongest. So the question is, how do we get lads in there? How do we avoid them being covered? The problem with it is that Kevin O'Driscoll and Sean White. Kevin O'Driscoll is another working half forward. Immediately I see working half forwards, I think, how out of date are them? Do you know what the new half forwards are? They are Jamie Brennan. They are Stephen O'Brien. They're fellas who have a savage appetite for work, which a half forward has to do, but are also going, I can't let him off. That's the new prototype wing forward. For the last 7 or 8 years, the prototype wing forward was a wing back, right? Who were going to work all over the field. That day is gone now, because all the fella who's marking him doing, saying, go on, sure, I'll let him on. What's he going to do? Now it's Stephen O'Brien. Now it's Jamie Brennan. And teams are going to have to realise that without having those half forwards that are going to savage work in that middle third, but their man can't feckin' say, you know, the Darren O'Sullivan, for example, you know, a half forward that goes, Jesus, if he drops into midfield, I can't let him get the run on me, because if he starts running at me and I'm in a standing position, the man's going past me. Stephen O'Brien, Jamie Brennan, they have to be marked. So if you have a half back line worried about a half forward line, a Sean O'Shea, right? So he loves work, but also has to be marked, right? So he's going to drag whoever he's marking out of that position. I think they're the new half forwards. So the other side of those type of half forwards, if they decide to hold the 40, your man's not going to go off all that much. They'll have that respect. I've often marked fellas, and you know they're attacking half back, and they don't attack on you. They have a bit of respect for here. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm going to watch him. The new half forwards, I'm making this call, are going to be converted full forwards rather than converted half backs. Is that
working
fair?
full forwards.
Yeah. But the thing for me was, and going back to my own playing days, and I played a lot of football in the half forward line, I judged myself at the end of the match, what did I score? That was still in my mindset. Oh, did I score here?
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a case of, I broke up so much player. I linked the defence with the attack, or I fed the yes, they were all parts of your game, and you know, maybe in latter years it was a case of, or in latter times there was a case of, you know, them half backs or half forwards. You know, we're not worried about you scoring. You don't have to score. And you just get on ball.
I think that's old fashioned now. I really do. I think that day is gone. I think players can do both now. Yeah. I think that the players are getting so good now that you don't have to that a scoring forward doesn't have to be a non-working forward. You know what I mean? That they all have to be like Kieran Kilkenny. Yeah. You know, look at the Dublin half forward line. They all want work. And they all class.
But you see, the thing about it is, in the modern game now, and I wouldn't like to be playing the full forward line because there's no space. So you've got to have your half forward line have to come at pace, and they have to be able to kick from distance. Yeah. You know, because that's one of the ways you're going to try. I don't like using the blanket defence word, but when you have a lot of bodies there, some teams are happy to let you come to a certain point and then press you. But if you're a good kicker from the 45, and which a lot of these players are, Donegal are very good at, you know, kicking from distance. They'll get Murphy out there. He'll land one from 50 metres, no problem. So I think that's some of the way you're going to try break down, because the days of trying to tread a little ball inside the full forward, it's very, very difficult.
Very difficult. You probably would get more chance of doing it against Dublin. But listen, lads, we've gone way over time there, so we're going to have to get a prediction on this. Dublin are 1-33, Cork are 12-1. Handicap here is 10. Very, very. It's like throwing money away back in Dublin against the handicap. Yeah. So, like, I mean, you're trying to make a big, strong case here for Cork. The fact of the matter is, you'd probably be looking at Dublin -10 here, would you?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be good? Like, you know, we were always talking about Cork take a forward backs with 7-on-6 in defence, and then Dublin have 6-on-5. Wouldn't it be good if, like, Rory Dean and Brian Hurley and Mark Collins were causing that much bother that Dublin thought, Jesus, we need to get Brian Howard back here, and then they reacted first.
And they have done that before. They've brought Howard back to help out. Like, I mean, against Laois, when they saw the good diagonal ball going in, Howard had to go back because Howard was a match-up for Downey Kingston. You know, maybe it was Howard that day. Maybe Howard was could have been starting wing back that day. But, like, I mean, Dublin are never put on the back foot.
No, and like the 3 games they lost in the league, I know it's the league, but they were asked questions. Like, you know, when Kerry, who almost lost it down in Tralee, went at them again when they had to do it.
But that has to be the change of attitude. Is how can we beat Dublin? Not like how can we contain Dublin? Containing Dublin, you'll be
going to lose. You're going to lose.
You're going to lose. So why not lose by trying to beat them instead of lose by trying to contain them?
Throw a punch and see what happens.
Exactly. Come out swinging, and you could get knocked out. But you've come out and tried to win.
Yeah, you have to try to win, because other than that, like going down the road and say, well, look, we kept Dublin to 5 points. It's not good to nobody. You know, you have to go out and try
Not at Super
winning.
8 time. You could make that argument in Leinster with some of the counties and say, look, contain them, don't be embarrassed, build on the result, because you know you've no real chance of beating them. But Super 8 teams have to believe that they're going to win that game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you going, lads? Get a quick prediction on this.
Dublin -10. I can't see Cork getting the ball from from kick-outs either end. So yeah.
I'm the same. We agree with that one.
I'll go Dublin -10. All right, Roscommon, Tyrone, lads. We'll be quick with these two, and we'll spend a bit more time on these teams the next time. So Tyrone are 3-10 favourites. Roscommon are 7-2. Handicap here is -4. Obviously, Roscommon are, with their system this year, in a much better position to take Tyrone on at home than potentially they were last year. Like, I mean, they've got big, strong physical, more of a physical team this year, more of a physical defence. They have more of a defensive system where they defend with everybody, maybe bar 3. Cottle Craig's no problem going back, helping out as well. Then you're bar the Cox and Murta. So I can see them taking on Tyrone. You know, I can see them taking them on in the physical stakes. I don't think it'll be anywhere near the hammering last year. Every time I see Roscommon playing Tyrone, I say put Enda Smith on Colm Kavanagh, and when Colm Kavanagh drops back into that sweeper, Smith's just marking him, and now suddenly Colm Kavanagh has to mark a forward who has no problem playing in the forward line. I can't believe I say this. I've said this so much, not so much this year, because no team wants to do it. Why can't we see that happening, Johnny? It's the most obvious tactic in the book. You know it's coming. And yet you never see a team saying, right, let's put Kaloran on Cassidy, say, wing forward. Let's start Enda Smith midfield, and let's say you mark Colm Kavanagh. When he's in midfield, you're contesting with him because you're perfectly able to play midfield. You've cleaned Galway out in a Connacht final midfield. And when he drops into the sweeper role, I want you following straight up to there, and I want you making runs left and right and dragging him out.
Forcing him to mark you.
Which he won't. Because, who do you think's going to win in a battle between Enda Smith and Colm Kavanagh on the top of the D?
Yeah.
He'd clean Kavanagh out of it. And that's no disrespect to Kavanagh, who's an excellent extra defender. But is he going to be able to man-mark Enda Smith? I don't think so.
As a cornerback?
Yeah, pretty much. As a full-back, an orthodox full-back.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because even when you know, earlier in the summer, when Tyrone didn't seem to play Kavanagh in as much of a sweeper role, it didn't suit him. He struggled. He struggled big time. You know, and I was very impressed with Tyrone against Kildare. I saw the first hand. I thought they just made Kildare look very mediocre. They looked powerful. They ran at Kildare at pace. They overturned them. You know, very much business-like performance from them. And I think they're improving the whole time. McShane inside is giving them a different. You know, he's giving them an option. Darren McCurry seems to have come on a grain of form.
A bit of form, yeah. Yeah,
so they've lots of pluses there. And again, you're looking to see, okay, we want to play our game, but how can we disrupt their game plan? And for me, you know, it doesn't take a rocket science to say, well, look, let's put a bit of pressure on the sweeper.
That's the one thing I would do. Obviously, Roscommon's kicking game isn't going to be ideal with Murta and Cox left inside. They're going to have to work the ball up patiently, and then I don't think that link man Craig will work brilliantly against Tyrone, because Tyrone will leave 2 probably on the link man. They'll be smart enough tactically to go, if they want to play through Craig, we have to take that off them. I can see Tyrone just suffocating Roscommon. Again, lads, I'm going Tyrone -4 here, although Roscommon will definitely be in this game an awful lot longer than they were the one in Croke Park.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Tyrone, there's a bit of a layoff from Roscommon, probably won't help them. You know, Tyrone have the momentum now. This is their third week, is it their third or fourth week in a row?
This will be their fourth.
Fourth week. So, and that momentum is with them, and that can be a big plus, because you're sitting back, and Roscommon are sitting there, all right, they've won a Connacht title, which is, it's brilliant, and training can be going great, but there's a little bit of uncertainty there, We're out of the battle of championship football for the last couple of weeks now. Are we primed at the right time? So I think with the momentum, I'll just give the nod to Tyrone for that one.
Right, okay, Conan, what do you think?
Tyrone, -4.
All right. Okay, so Donegal are 1-8 against Meath. Meath are 6-1. Handicap here is -8. I'm not sure what way to look at this. Like, on one side you could say it could get messy for Meath up in Ballybuffet, but they went up there in the league, played very well. Now, I know I'm not comparing league and championship at all, but they played them in a league final in Croke Park, which is getting towards championship pace, and they only lost by 2 points. So, certain teams don't fear each other, and it's maybe Meath just don't worry too much about Donegal. Now, obviously, Meath struggled over Offaly, beat Carlow and Laois, and just barely beat Clare. So this is a huge, huge step up for them. The only top-level team they've played is Dublin, and they were hammered against Dublin. They scored 4 points. They kicked 12 wides against Dublin. Against Clare, it was until the 46th minute before they kicked the wide. So at least they improved on that, and they have some good players. Like, I can see nothing only a Donegal win here. I'm not going to make a case in any way for Meath to win. I just think Meath might potentially beat the -8.
Yeah, I'm a little bit the same as you. I think Donegal, and for the argument I had for Tyrone with the momentum against Roscommon, it makes it seem I'm of a different argument for here. But I just think the quality that, particularly in the forward, like when you have Michael Murphy, you have Jamie Brennan, Mac Brearty,
a whole load of them, yeah.
Niall O'Donnell. These guys they're top class, and I just think Meath don't have the forwards to match the Donegal forwards, and particularly at home in Ballyboy. But it will be close. It'll be close enough. But I just think Donegal will have way too much for them.
The whole analysis with this years ago would be, and Meath did it against Tyrone in Navan 2 years ago, is mirror them. Right, and the whole idea with Kerry beating Donegal in the All-Ireland final was mirror them. You mirror them and you turn the game into a real stalemate. But that was back when teams used to leave 2 sweepers back full time. Yeah. The game has changed so much now that you're mirroring them, but Donegal are attacking with 13 players. So it's still one-on-one when Donegal attack, and they're so slick through the hands that they'll still get through you even if you have 13 players back, because this is the change now, that teams aren't being as conservative as they used to. I remember watching Ulster finals with Tyrone and Donegal, and Tyrone could be on the attack. They'd have a double sweeper in front of Murphy and McFadden, and then they'd have 2 more on the half back line. So they're down 4 after attack. So no wonder they couldn't get a score on the other end. Donegal have 4 extra defenders. Now if you see these teams attacking, they have no full-time sweeper. When they lose it, Colm Kavanagh sprint back into his covering position, but they're attacking with everyone. Do you know what I mean? So like you say to me now, the old analysis, go up there, mirror them with the defensive system. Sure, Donegal are the slickest team through hand. It'll basically be like a hand passing game in your half with everyone on both teams in there, and they'll still get through you.
And teams are so much more aggressive now as well at attacking the kickouts, so you don't get that handy sort of outball anymore when you were mirroring. Like Donegal going up and trying to win it back again.
Yeah. So you didn't have the easy conceded kick out.
So you can go through 3 or 4 plays without even having the ball, and it's all Donegal coming at you. So and I'm going to go with the Ulster team again here as well. I think I wonder how much.
You'll do it, but I think we'll all agree on Donegal. The question I have is, will Donegal beat them by more than 8?
So I was wondering how much will the score difference come into play in this group, or will they even think about that? Because Donegal, Mayo and Kerry all at the same level. Yeah. If you're beating Meath now and you're Declan Bonner by 5 points at the weekend, do you just go for it, or do you just drop an extra defender back and get the 2 points? Yeah. It could all end up on the same amount of points.
You'd actually prefer to play Meath in the last game rather than the first, because Meath will be mad up for this, and by the third game they could be demoralised, and maybe Roscommon last year.
I don't see them beating them by more than 8. I think they will beat them, but I think Meath are improving a bit. I think they're solid in defence. Like they're good tacklers of the ball, in defensively, and they're able to transition well. I think Donegal, but I don't think they'll beat the handicap.
Yeah. Okay, great lads, great stuff, lads. We've gone way over the hour today, so we'll all go Donegal, and me and Johnny think they won't beat the 8, and the Ulster bias coming through that the Ulster champions have to hammer these Leinster minnows. Right, okay, we'll be back on Monday. I think Cian Ward is going to be back on Monday after his summer holidays, and we'll talk to you then. Good luck.